Good evening to all of you, and that was a wonderful session given by Ma'am Isabel Vas. She brought a positive attitude towards drama and theatre. As I was just observing her speech, I was mesmerized because she told that from the wars and the pandemic situations, drama and theatre survived. So definitely during and this pandemic situation also the theatre will overcome and definitely will have a nice future for drama. That's what the positive with positive note she ended her speech. And some of the things which really I liked, one phrase which she said is that theatre was a powerful means of propaganda. Yes, ma'am, I agree with you because whatever, whether it is political issues or historical issues, domestic, whatever it may be, and definitely theatre is a kind of propaganda. And the narratives will be based on this. And you have given many references from Shakespeare, and that is something which I liked it, and even the participants, some two, three of our participants also have mentioned it. So I will go to the questions directly, ma'am. And the first question. Abhishek Popli, he had asked, I think this is Karishma Popli, that participant had asked, what commonalities do you find in today's theatre in comparison to old theatre? And also, what changes you suggest and observe in today's theatrical generations? Got it, ma'am?
Comparison.
What commonalities do you find in today's theatre in comparison to old theatre?
Yeah,
That is
there is some kind of continuity between the. Can you hear me? Sorry.
yeah, we can hear you.
There is continuity in theatre. So whether it is ancient Greek theatre or ancient Indian theatre, there are some commonalities, of course. The energy is very similar. The relationship between the performers and the audience, I think that is continuous, that is the same at all times, at least it is similar. But there are also differences. The ancient kinds of theatre were to some extent devotional. Many of them had mythical elements in them. Some of them were connected with the fertility rites. Some of them were connected with festivals. Whereas now theatre may be a little more secular, but the human passions are the same. The human concerns, human interests are not very different over the centuries. So I think the fundamental nature of theatre remains the same.
She says that, and also what changes you suggest and observe in today's theatrical generations. What suggestions?
Sorry,
What suggestions? What suggestions do you observe in today's theatrical generation? Theatrical generations.
Suggestions?
Yeah. For today's generation, what?
Suggestions are that where theatre has much to offer, sometimes people are becoming more addicted to television and film. Of course, they have their own charm, but theatre has a charm of its own because it is live. And my suggestion is that people today should give theatre a chance, participate. When you are part of a performance, the experience is something that is absolutely rare. It is not that you are detached as you are in a film or on a from the TV screen. When you are participating either as a performer or as a member of the live audience, it is an experience that is absolutely unique. So my suggestion is that people should be more involved in theater, write more perhaps. Whatever experiences people go through, instead of just writing a short story, they could perhaps attempt to write a play and to perform it. Be wonderful.
Yes, ma'am. There is one more question from Asmin Janisha from Kanyakumari. She says that while looking at technological growth, it shows that people are fastly moving towards the digital world. In this recent era, people love to watch everything within their hands with one click. Already, technology has distanced people, but social distancing placed an official rule to be away from people to care about their own life. Some started to release films through online platforms. What do you think will the theater performance will become online? Does technological growth shut down theater performance in the coming days?
When theater comes on, sorry,
Yes, ma'am.
when theater comes online, it becomes available, performance happening anywhere in India, available to people all over the world instantly. So that is obviously an advantage. But if it is going to remain online, if all the theater in the future is going to remain an online kind of an event, I think that would be a tremendous loss because theater is a live art form. And frankly, I don't think that the digital age is going to kill theater altogether. Because as new technologies come, we have always feared that a new technology is going to destroy the earlier one. But I don't think it happens. There are transformations, there are adaptations, but I very much doubt that something as vital as theater is going to be destroyed by the digital age.
There is one. Is it possible to have online theater festival as film festivals are doing some attempts in this direction?
Yes, it is possible. And I think already some people are attempting to do it. But the way I see it is that it is stopgap theater. Because once it becomes live, then the audience will be there live. Of course, you can record it and then make it available online. That will be a wonderful thing to do. But to completely displace live theater, I think is extremely sad.
Kanaya Sinha, he asked, is there any possibility of online performance of drama?
Yes, yes, there is already a great deal of it happening. All these big theater companies worldwide, they are showing their previous plays. But those are old plays. New plays are going to happen, I'm sure of it. I'm not sure, you cannot be sure of anything. But I'm quite convinced that great new theater is going to happen. And it will happen live first. And once it is recorded, then it will be available online. This is my conviction.
There is Pani Kumari who asked, could we get a renaissance in theatre arts after COVID? Will Corona produce more writers and poets?
Will it produce more right?
Could we
Yes,
get
I
a
do.
renaissance in theatre?
Will it produce more writers? Yes, I do believe it will produce more writers for theater because there are many stories that are so very powerful happening all around us. And people will also want to discover new forms, new formats in order to express perhaps new ideas or perhaps new concerns that will rise to the surface in this very difficult era that we are going through.
There is a question from Prasanna Shekhar. He asked, only the directors have a thought to create an act while they associate it with outer atmosphere. Is it true?
I would say no. The director has a kind of a unifying idea, but every actor brings something to the performance, and that enriches the performance. If there is another actor taking that same role, the performance will change. So, yes, of course, the director has a kind of a unifying idea. Otherwise, the play will completely fall apart. But the director is not the only person.
Aparna Srinivas asked, please tell us something about the Shakespeare adaptation in the Indian context.
Sorry?
Aparna Srinivas asked the question, please tell us something about the Shakespeare's adaptations in the Indian context.
Shakespeare adaptations happen all the time. In fact, very early in the early 19th and 20th centuries, Shakespeare came to be translated and adapted in places like West Bengal. And films, of course, there are a whole lot of films based on Shakespeare's Othello and Hamlet, on the big tragedies. And of course, there are adaptations that take off from Shakespeare, but they contextualize it in the Indian setting. I cannot rattle off names, but there are many. There are many. And Shakespeare's stories, whether they are love stories or whether they have a political kind of a setting, they speak to all people at all points of time, in India as well, even today.
Yes, ma'am. You stated that Shakespeare moved to countryside and produced good work, but the reality is that he had his family living there. But in today's world, we are stuck in the din of metro world. What are we supposed to do?
See, at this point in time, I think we cannot do very much, but we can think, we can reflect. If we are under lockdown, we are not supposed to be silly and go out and, put ourselves in danger. But it's important to ask why these things are happening. It is important to think ahead. We are not just people who do things, we are also human beings with a mind, a questioning ability. This is, I'm convinced, a very powerful moment in the history of the human race. Not just to do, but to think, to reflect, to ponder. And out of this thinking, great writing will come. It will not be overnight, but great writing will happen. But it will be based on the depth of our own reflection.
Uh, Ganesh Nagappan asked, who is your favorite theatre artist and favorite theatre director? Who is Indian Shakespeare in contemporary theatre from your point?
Very difficult question to answer because I don't really know enough about all.
One question. Just so many questions. Clarinda had asked, she is from Dempe College, Goa. She asked, could street theatre, people theatre, be a form of employment in the future, much like street performers in the West and even in India?
Yes, street theater has its own role to play. I don't know how lucrative it will be economically because audiences for street theater may not be that very large. Of course, there would be some plays that become very popular and they attract huge audiences. But street theater will be a form of employment, I think, to a restricted number of artists. Of course, dancers and singers and acrobats and um, even, political theater as street theater. It does have a future, it does have a present, it does have a past, and I believe that it has a future as well. But in terms of economics, whether they will provide very lucrative employment, somehow I doubt it.
Yes, ma'am. Keshav Jahangir asked, ma'am, what would be your suggestions to the functionaries of the system to safeguard the theatre in post-COVID scenario? The functionaries of the system. The functionaries of the
Please
system.
say that.
Functionaries of the system to safeguard the theatre in post-COVID scenario.
See, one way to safeguard any of the arts is some form of funding. And at this particular point of time, when the actors find that their whole theatre company may have to shut down because the theatre houses are closed, then they will need some form of funding, either from philanthropists or from the government or from the public. So, if theatre is to survive in the short run, they need some kind of support, financial support. In the long run, theatre will find its feet. They will find ways of rallying together and presenting great theatre. This is my conviction. But if we allow them to die out now because they are not able to support themselves, then I think the road will be even more difficult for them. So, support of the arts, I think, is vital at this point of time.
Okay, there's a question from Vishaka Devi. She says that thank you, ma'am, for taking us through the whole length of what theatre and drama is all about. You said theatre loops in a whole set of people on stage, off stage, that includes a whole team within a capsule of time. What would happen to the most crucial impact of this loop if the 24 hours play format with its homebound actors and team tends to stay on in case the pandemic persists for a long time and the viral monologues need to persist? Please explain.
See, at this point of time, people are trying to do what they can. The 24-hour format is a way of trying to bring theatre to the public at a moment when theatre is under tremendous pressure, tremendous disadvantages. So if the pandemic continues for many months, if it continues for years, then this kind of digital short play format will continue. It will only come to an end when people's fear of infection decreases. There is no other way. So we have no clue. We don't know whether there is going to be a second wave, a third wave of the pandemic. There is absolutely nothing that we can say at this point of time about the future of the pandemic. We just have to wait and see. If the pandemic comes to an end, I assure you, theatre will bounce back. If it does not come to an end immediately, then it is only online theatre that will manage to keep its head above water.
Ambika Kamath from Harmal College, Goa. She asked, Ma'am, could you shed more light on the economic dimensions, particularly the struggle of the performers to make ends meet? Somewhere as a society, are we expecting performers such as comedians to produce free content for social media platforms during these difficult times?
Yes, sometimes we forget that artists and performers are also in need of an income. We tend to think of them as free entertainers, which they are not. For people to present a play or even a dance or a song, they rehearse for hours and hours and hours. And if it is a play, it means a rehearsal that involves a whole team, a team of actors as well as technical personnel. So, of course, they need to break even. Of course, they need to make a profit. Of course, they need an income. They need some kind of security. And if we find that for some reason society neglects the arts, neglects theatre, then they will suffer. Obviously, they will suffer. And to think that these artists today will find it very easy to come back, that they will be able to perform absolutely free of charge on social media, I think is a big mistake on our part. It is a misconception.
There is a question from Apara Tiwari from Madhya Pradesh. She asked, could you kindly suggest any alternative method of teaching drama in class with limited resources, and also when we are experimenting with online classes during these trying times?
See, at this particular point, all that we can do is online classes. So at this point of time, we have to use our imagination. And a whole lot of people are doing theatre now online for children. So that is all we can do now. We can, for instance, train children to use their voices, to use facial expression, to use expression in order to express their own emotions, to use the face, to use the body to express emotions. All this can be done digitally. But once we are back in the space of the classroom, physically present to our students and students present to the teacher and the text, then of course the class itself does have some elements of performance. The students are performing, the teacher is performing, and I think the teacher can be very much alive to this element that the classroom offers and explore it. I think sometimes teachers don't really explore this element of performance in the sense of establish a kind of uh, strong dynamic relationship with the student. Use, for instance, body expression, to use eye contact, to use the voice modulation, all these things that teachers are able to use need to be a little bit explored a little in greater depth and at greater length, I think. And it can be done.
As I mentioned about the stiffness of the teacher in front of the camera, Apara has asked the same question. Before the camera, I am used to go around in the class and I used to act it out and to connect the people, the students. But I will want to know that how can I correct myself? How to do that now? I think the answer what you gave exactly is the same thing what she has asked. Any other suggestion do you want to give?
See, there are always more and more things that we can do in drama, and to make the class itself very lively. And I think if we notice that a student has a beautiful voice, we encourage that person to be aware of his or her voice and to use it optimally. Again, the opposite is also true. If we find that a student is not employing his or her voice very well, then we can give hints on how that voice can be used. And these are small techniques which will benefit the student greatly. The use of body language, for instance. If the teacher is able to incorporate this kind of knowledge as part of his or her teaching, obviously the students will learn as well. So, in a sense, the teacher is a performer, and what the students are able to observe, I think, is something that they will also incidentally learn.
There is a question from PS Deepa from Government College, Kepe, Goa. She asked, where do you think this tale is going to hang? In farce, domestic drama, pathos of migration, critique of globalization?
I think there are going to be many, many stories now. I think there are going to be critiques of so many of these tragedies that are happening around us. I don't really know what the playwrights are going to zero in. It depends on individual playwrights. It depends on the concerns of people in a particular context, in a particular society. Somebody writing in India, I think, will write differently from a playwright in Italy at the present moment, or in Brazil, or in Spain. But it is certainly true that some of the stories and some of the traumas are experienced by all of us. And also, on the other side, some of the beautiful moments that this pandemic has literally thrown onto our laps. Kindness that we find unexpectedly, friendship, compassion. These are not to be lightly taken. So, what will the playwrights concentrate on? I have no clue. But I must say that I am very keenly awaiting a response from theatre, from drama, from the performer as well as from the writer, to see what exactly is thrown up by the pandemic. I don't know. I'm keen on learning.
There is a question from again from Deepa. She asked, "Will the pandemic inspire tales of battling a virus and surviving, or will the pandemic look inwards and probe the depths of angst in the like Lady Macbeth washing hands to save the virus?" Nice question.
Yes, I think there will be playwrights who will probably say, we have suffered enough, so we are going to now concentrate on the more superficial. We will entertain people. We will look on that which is bearable. And there will be others who will say, this is a moment in the history of humanity that is requesting us, that is demanding of us that we go inward. And therefore, surely there will be great, I don't know whether there will be tragedies or whether a new form is going to emerge altogether. But surely there will be inward looking drama as well. I'm absolutely confident that people will look inwards just as they look outwards. Both will show their faces. Theatre has the capacity to do both for us.
Hello. There's a question from Preeti Mesram. She asked, "Ma'am, can theatre survive in pandemic?"
Yes, it can and it will.
Yeah. Then Preeti, yeah, Abara says that it's a wonderful session and most of the references are from Shakespeare. Why?
See, one reason why Shakespeare was selected is that he personally lived through epidemics and he was deeply affected in the sense that for some time he could not perform. And of course, the other reason is that he is such a great playwright. And I suspect that he did not allow those difficult years of his life to go waste. That is why I selected him as an example, that he used a time which we might have just allowed to run waste. He used it as a very fecund and very fertile time. And as a result, we have poems and we have plays that we delight in so many centuries later.
Dhananjay, again, one more question he asked that theatre is a threat to people misusing the power. Do you agree?
Yes, it can be. It can be. It sometimes sets out to be politically strong, and therefore the powers that be can feel threatened. They certainly can. And throughout history, the powers that be have been very much aware of what theatre is doing. And at certain points of time, censorship has really raised its ugly head. I do agree.
Yes, ma'am. The questions are more. I think we will wind up with this last question. And you have given a wonderful explanation, and it was something worth to because to end our session with your speech, and it was really amazing and very informative. And with a positive note, we will be leaving this webinar session that everything will go well. Only we have time will tell us to wait. So we will wait and look for the future, which is going to be not the same, but there will be some, not some, many positive repercussions will happen. And your talk and thank you for the question answer session. and I hope the participants had enjoyed, because most of the comments which the participants had given, that very nice and very thought-provoking session, and it was something with positive note we are leaving the session. That's what the participants had given, and my opinion also the same. Thank you, ma'am. And I request Sarika. Yeah, Sarika, please propose. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah,
You are always there for us to support us. Thank you. And I request ma'am Sarika to propose the vote of thanks.
yeah. Hi all. Good evening, Ma'am Vaz and all the dear participants. Today, as we draw towards the end of the 5-day national webinar, we are extremely honored and delighted to have a very eminent and erudite speaker from the world of theatre and theatre with us. So, on behalf of the Nyan Prasarak Mandal's College and Department of English, I would like to express my extreme gratitude to you, ma'am, for presenting us a very insightful session on the significance and position of theatre from the historical to the present pandemic times. It is really our pleasure to have a charming personality like you with us today. Ma'am, the most remarkable message which you gave through your session was that of a very positive vision of the growth of theatre and theatre, even in the odd times like that of the present pandemic situation. Whether it has to face challenges with new modern cinematic or web series technology, or whether with the pandemic times. The hope with which you have answered all the doubts and queries of the participants has created a very positive outlook for all the theatre artists and performers. And we hope that theatre in future is going to flourish like anything, because there is no end to theatre and nothing can challenge it. Once again, a big thank you to you, ma'am, for honoring us with your esteemed presence on this national webinar. Thank you, ma'am. Uh, Very big thank you to all the participants for being with us for the last 5 days and supporting us with their encouraging remarks and insightful questions. Thank you to all of you for your active participation, and please, all of you, do remember to fill the feedback forms for today. The feedback forms are very important criteria for your e-certificates. So once again, thank you to all the participants for being with us, for bearing with us and supporting us. We hope to join you again in future too. I would also like to express my gratitude to our principal, Dr. D.B. Arolkar, for his constant motivation in organizing such events. A big thank you to Ma'am Shanti for creating this enriching platform of discourse, which is the very much need of the difficult times like today. And this is required very much to keep the life of the ideas and thoughts, flowing into our academic lives and into us. So thank you, Ma'am Shanti, for being with us. And once again, thank you to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarika. It's a wonderful vote of thanks which you have given. And I request all the participants, please fill the feedback form, and people who have filled forms for at least 4 days can expect the e-certificate, and you have to wait for maybe 15 days. We will sort it out, and some of them they have registered, some of them they left. So we have all the records with us, and the feedback form of today, please fill it, and that is going to help the organizers to give your certificates. And one more important feedback form which we will be sending it to you, that about the whole webinar session, your comments we want, so that it will be a lesson, or it will be whatever suggestions what you are giving going to give is going to help us to organize many more webinar sessions. And thank you very much, and special thanks to all my departmental colleagues, especially to Subhash Kamalkar. And from the day one till today, he was clogging. And actually, to talk about him, he is the backbone of the department. And because of him, I could organize so many events. And this initial technical cliches were there. And always he used to have, don't worry, ma'am, if plan A doesn't work, plan B or C. So, in that manner, he made this event a grand success. And I'm happy that all the resource persons from day one till today, we had a very nice intellectual sessions. And the first day, Professor Ashok Mahapatra, the second day by Sangeeta, Ma'am Sangeeta from Periyar University, third day by Chenny from Shimoga, and yesterday it was Paromita Chakrabarti, and today Ma'am Isabel Vas. I thank each and every resource person for making this my request that they took time and presented very beautifully. And the comments which we got from the participants is the proof that the sessions went on very well. And so many comments, very good comments, maybe one or two, because initial cliches were there and they got fed up. But you cooperated so well, especially the success of this webinar session is mainly because of the participants. I thank each and every one of you, and we will keep in touch, and we will meet somewhere, not in actual classroom, but in virtual classroom. Thank you very much.